Hey guys, I'm Danny,
And I'm EJ, and this is the Your Living Proof podcast.
where we talk about addiction and how it affects the family, from the brutal to the beautiful and everything in between. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Your Living Proof podcast.
Hey guys,
My wife did her hair today.
Danny's on one today.
Yep.
He just told me that. So
We're
buckle
cool
up.
though. We're
Buckle
cool
up.
with each other. We do when we argue in the podcast booth before we go live. So everything's okay now. Everyone's safe.
Yes.
But we're grateful to be back another week. We hope to continue to help those of you who are trying to navigate the difficult road of an addicted loved one, whether it be a spouse, a sibling, a child, or any other person, important role in your life, that you get empowered, that here you're understood, that here you gain some tools and resources and support to be a better influence on them. Is that fair?
Yep.
I mean, that's what we sure hope.
That's why we're here.
We're not here selling like supplements or something.
No, but
Probably be a lot easier.
I was going to say, I feel like that would be so relaxing compared to this.
I know. I think I'm addicted to drama, but this is great. What I do know is doing this line of work has allowed me to work with people on such a very deep emotional level.
Which is good because you love to deep dive.
I love deep diving. Well, it's part of the addict in me that will always be there, I guess. So, hey, today we have an amazing topic. The topic today is how we have taught or how we teach our kids about addiction.
Yeah, it's one that we actually get asked about. I feel like often. I feel like a lot of people want to know, like, oh, how do you talk to your kids about that? They must be so well prepared because of what you guys do. And I'm like, oh, I never even really thought about that. Maybe the way we talk to our kids is different than others. So
No, it's going to be good. And not here to say that we have a special remedy, but it is nice because what we do, my kids are aware of it. They're exposed to it. So we've had to explain it. We've been almost forced into some situations to try to explain certain things, but it's just having already been through it. And what would have helped me if someone would have known a little bit better, right?
Sure. Yep.
So I think there's some really awesome insights that I hope are very helpful to some of you, and hopefully something that you can share with other people who you knew would benefit from this. We're the only twisted people enough to talk about some of these issues.
Yeah, and if you are one of those who, has an addicted loved one right now, I think this episode will be really helpful to you because I guarantee there's others in your home that are affected by their addiction. And this will help you talk with them about those topics a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe some of you have grown kids now with grandkids and they could benefit from this as well. So let's get into it. Before we do, I have one cool story to share. This happened just, 3 days ago? 4 days ago? So I coach my son's football team, 6th grade football coach. And I've done it the last several years with him. He loved football. I loved the time that we got to spend together doing it. I kind of had to fake it till I could make it at the beginning. I didn't really know I was coaching, but I just wanted to spend time and help my son have success. And it's just become an awesome experience. There's no better way to spend your fall evenings than out with a bunch of kids, especially your son, throwing the old pigskin around and hearing their pads crack against one another. So we had a game on Saturday, and my son got his thumb stepped on. Thought he had broke his thumb.
Yeah.
It was painful. He played through the pain, didn't tell me till after the game, but it was super swollen, didn't look good. Well, it's one of our fingers, right? There's not a ton that can be done. So I said, let's give it a day or two and see if it, heals. But immediately we came home. He was aware. Everyone else was aware. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Roman. Look what happened. And then we addressed it immediately. We talked about it. We were constantly asking him. He was telling us how he felt. We iced it. We gave him medication, right?
Yep.
And then 2 days later, and the swelling was still there, we went and got an x-ray and did all these things, right?
Yep.
So he comes up to me. This was 2 days after. This was on Monday.
Yeah, it was on Monday because he was going to school.
Yeah, going to school. He said, hey, Dad, guess what? And I was like, what? He's like, I think emotional injuries are harder than physical ones. And I was like, what? I mean, obviously that just sounded an alarm. I was like, tell me more. We're big in our home. If you haven't heard of our secrets keep us sick. So I was like, tell me, son. He's like, well, I just think about my thumb and it hurt really bad. But he started listing off all the things. But you helped me immediately. I was talking to you about it. Like everyone is aware of it. You did all these things to help me. He's like, think about people that have emotional injuries or pain. I don't think most people even know. It about left me in tears. I mean, he's 11 years old.
Yep.
11-year-old. They're not supposed to be going that deep.
No.
But I was so grateful that he could recognize that. That the spiritual and emotional wounds are ones that most people don't know about. And they go unaddressed, unattended, can't see them. And that's what leads people down these dark and terrible paths so often. So anyway, it was a cool story.
That's so awesome.
So let's get into the topic.
Yeah, let's do it. Today, we are going to talk about how we discuss drug and alcohol addiction in our home and how we discuss porn addiction in our home. And kind of coupled with that, because it goes hand in hand. You can't talk really about one without the other. We want to talk about how we talk about sex in our home with our kids. So those are the heavy topics that are in line today.
And guess what? They do feed each other.
Yeah, so all of them, actually.
Everyone who wouldn't be sexually active otherwise, once they develop a dependency and addiction to substances, it almost always leads to that. And those people who start with that, not always, but very often, lead into the forms of self-medicating. So they fuel each other.
Right.
Let's start out real quick, though, with the appropriate age.
Okay.
When is it appropriate? Now, I think throughout time that number's changed drastically. When our grandparents were little and our parents maybe than today. But what is the appropriate age? I think everyone wonders that. We did. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first time we sat down and talked about inappropriate pictures and pornography, Willa was how old?
Probably 3.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
The answer is earlier. Earlier than you think or you can imagine.
Or you want to.
Real quick, I've referenced this twice. I think I even referenced it last week.
Yep.
Tammy Hill, sex expert at Brigham Young University, amazing woman. She was on our podcast once. We asked that question. A bunch of people had said, hey, let us know what questions you want to ask. One of the questions was, when do I start talking to my kids about sex, sexuality, and porn? Her answer, the night they come home from the hospital. Of course, everyone's like, what? They don't even understand at that point. And she goes on to further explain. I won't slaughter it, but no, they won't. But you'll have enough time to think about it, process it, and it actually go through the motion of talking about it, that when they are old enough to understand, you got it down. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, we missed the boat on that because we didn't hear it for, many years after our kids were born. But really good episode. You should go and listen to Tammy Hill, the episode that we did with Tammy Hill, and the way she talks and teaches sexuality.
Well, we're going to get into it too, because I think if you question yourself, like are they old enough to know? You have to think about a few things, and we're going to get into that, right?
Yeah.
Like we're going to get into where do people go for information these days? I mean, I think we're all a little bit aware.
Yeah.
But the good old days of encyclopedias and going to libraries, checking out books.
I miss encyclopedias. They're so pretty.
It's we don't live in the same day and age.
Nope.
There's information easily accessible. So how do you want to start out about this?
So,
should we start and break the two up?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
Start with substances.
Drugs and alcohol. Not a topic we really want to have with our kids. Nobody does. I want to hope to explain this as clear as possible. Honesty is the key. Now, when I was younger, some of you might be my age or close to it enough to know there used to be this commercial on TV that it said, here's your brain. And there was 2 eggs. And it's like, here's your brain on drugs. And there's that sizzling pan where it's just scary, right? There was scare tactics involved. Don't do it. You know what I mean? It was like,
you do it, bad things are going to happen.
It's bad. Don't do it. There was no explanation about it. So how I do this, and again, you get to choose how you do it with your family, is I want to make sure to be ahead of the game with my children on this. I've kind of been forced to because they know my story. We've made it known. They better have a good understanding of how their dad is a recovering drug addict, right? The way I go about this is being ahead of it with them and being honest with them. Now, when I explain this, a lot of people are going to have immediate resistance and pushback. I have made sure on multiple occasions, whether it's in the truck, family room, when we're having like a family meeting and it's a formal thing, whenever my kids ask a question, it's giving them the truth that drugs and alcohol for most people is incredible in the beginning. It's phenomenal. It makes people feel so good. Now, some people don't like it, but for those who do, it makes them feel incredible. And when I say this, like my kids are kind of looking, and then it's playing the tape forward and allowing them to see. And what's been really helpful is when I explain this to them and say, guess what though? It's only fun for so long. It might be the funnest couple of months of your life, but it always ends up in disaster. Now, when you're trying to convince a young person of that, like, I don't know, right? They don't think it's going to happen to them. And that does exist. But when we're out, for example, we are on a vacation in Hawaii, and there's some people that are just homeless talking to street lights and telephone poles and talking in demonic voices. And
it scared them. Like it legitimately scared them.
They were looking at it. And so I used the opportunity. And I said, remember, imagine that guy right there laying on the ground in the gutter. Imagine when he was like 17 or 18 or whenever it was when he started and everything was so amazing. Yep. Do you think he thought it would end up like this? No. Do you think that I would have ended up incarcerated in the beginning? No, because in the beginning it was fun. So what I'm trying to say is it is empowering when you give them the truth. Yeah. Because there's a level of curiosity. I always say that everyone's addiction starts from something. And for some people, trauma is the reason it started. Something very terrible happened. For everybody else, there's like peer pressure, curiosity, desperation, whatever it is. When you're a young person and everyone keeps telling you something's bad, but when you witness, because they will, whether it's at school activities, parties, sports teams or whatever, they're going to see people doing it. And they're pretty convincing that they're having a great time. Yeah. So you just confused a person. You just confused a young person's brain. I'm hoping my kids can be like, yep, I can see that. Dang, that does kind of look like it would be a fun night. But I have conviction and belief of knowing where this ends up for everyone. Yeah. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to maybe miss out on this night because I know how it ends. Yeah. And I think as an LDS parent, I think it's interesting because I think about how my parents approached drugs and alcohol with me and my siblings. And it was just very rule oriented. It was, we believe in the word of wisdom. Therefore, we do not drink alcohol and we do not use drugs, like period. Like, boom, black and white. There wasn't a lot of discussion as to maybe why or this whole other side of things that's, hey, what happens if you do it? How does it feel? And no, we're not talking about that. You don't do it, period. And I do really think that there is something incredible and empowering that happens as a parent and for a child when you have these conversations in which you explore those scary parts. Oh, well, what happens? You could have a lot of fun. That's the truth. The truth is what Danny said. People don't do it because it's not fun. Can I talk on that? Yeah. Guess what? As a parent, you're going, okay. But the fear is if you tell them that it's amazing, if you tell them that some people have like the greatest experience, that you're like, ooh, I'm going to tempt them. Yeah, now they're going to go do it. Holy hell. They're going to be tempted in ways that you can never comprehend, that your parents would have never fathomed. Yeah. They will be tempted no matter how good they are or how amazing your home is. This is a different day and age. They're going to be attacked. It's not even tempted. Yeah. They're going to be attacked at every angle. So they better know and they better understand. What she just described was me. I was raised in the same faith. I was a good little boy. I did make some poor choices. I did. I made some poor choices. I can remember the first time I drank, how scared I was. And the first time I smoked marijuana, how scared I was. I knew I shouldn't be doing it, but instantly, I felt really good. That was confusing because I knew what I was doing was wrong. I'd been told that over and over. I actually believed it, but then all of a sudden, wait, what?
Yeah,
If this is wrong, why does it make me feel so good?
I think it's so critical as parents that we talk about those contraries, that we are very real and honest about them, because your kids are smart and they see it and they feel it and they are trying to sort through it. So who better to actually help them sort through those things with than an adult that they can trust, that has their best interests in mind, and someone that will tell them the truth.
Yeah.
So no matter how scared you are about it.
Yep.
And I'll just say, anything that you're approaching your kids with fear isn't going to go well.
Well, and to think that you might be the person that influences them to go try because of the curiosity, please put that to rest.
Right.
They're carrying around things in their pockets that they get access to the entire world, and everyone's going to be tempting them. You're not the one tempting them.
Yeah.
You're the one being honest and true and getting ahead of the game.
Yep.
So I hope that helps. Be honest with them. If you want to do something crazy and really influential, go take them downtown. Go to the homeless shelter, the people around the streets. Look at the people and talk to them and remind them who they were when they were 20 years old, 16 years old. That they were in good homes. They were with families. Now look what they look like. Take them to the county jail and remind them that all these people in here, they're not bad people. Well, there might be one or two. They're all people who got trapped by this thing that made them feel good. And this is where it ends up. Something to think about. But please put to rest this old thing that we learned from our parents and they learned from their parents and their parents of just, we don't do it, we don't talk about it, it's bad.
Yeah.
We've got to do better than that.
Yep. Our kids deserve better. They need better.
Let's move on, because these other topics, there's some real similarities, but some changes too.
So next we're going to talk about how do we talk with our children about porn. Mind you, we have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So we're in the thick of it with parenting.
I can't wait till they change the word, by the way. I know this is off topic. I have ADHD, if you didn't know. But the word porn.
Oh, why would they ever change it?
I just think, when are we going to change it to like digital sex or something? Like,
that's too hard to say.
I don't know, but it's just like the word, I think, is just either hard for some people to say.
Really?
Well, yeah, I do.
Oh, I think masturbation is hard for people to say, but I think porn is pretty easy.
Yes. Yep. Okay, kid, let's keep going. I'm sorry.
So I want you to tell everyone, how do we talk about this?
Okay, so you talk about it bold, often, clearly, and unapologetically. And I think if you're able to look your children in the eye, and there's nothing more powerful than having a man and wife, like a husband and wife, especially talking to children about this issue, there's a power in that.
Yeah.
But you talk to them about it at a younger age than you can imagine.
Yep.
You ask them questions. When you start talking about it, again, the immediate fear is condoning it, right?
Yeah, or maybe piquing their interest, right? Like where you're like, oh, hey, this is what pornography is. You know, when we first started having these conversations with our younger kids, you know, around the age of like 7, I'm like, they don't even know what that means. Like, but guess what? They actually did. They just didn't know the right word for it. And again, you would be the luckiest person on earth if you were the first one to talk to your kid about that. That would be awesome. If you were the one that taught them the word pornography and what it was and why it was harmful to them.
Or talk to them about masturbation, right? They go hand in hand. Again, to reference Tammy Hill, it was really powerful that she talked about on our show a while back, which was the deadly combination of masturbation and porn.
Right.
Now, there is the issue of masturbation. Every one of us, when we're young, getting to know our own bodies, feeling different things, exploring, experimenting, trying to figure it out.
Yep.
You're stimulated. You feel certain things. We all did. But she talked about what is your stance? Like, how do you feel about masturbation? Because there are people who do that. She said the one thing that is the most destructive and dangerous is the combination of the two.
Yep.
Which is masturbation combined with porn. Now, I will say in all the years I've done this, I've had at least a couple people tell me that their child or their spouse or someone is addicted to porn. And then they followed up immediately by saying, but they don't masturbate.
Oh,
I think that something's wrong with them. Like, you need to go see a doctor because like it's not working.
yeah, like that's not.
They go hand in hand, but you do need to know where you stand on it. So we have to explain it, right? And we're going to get into this later because if you don't, what is the alternative?
Well, they're just going to see it. So here's the thing. This is the one topic where I do have a very black and white stance on it. I tell my kids, do not look at porn. Do not. Do not consume pornography. You can masturbate. I feel like that is a normal behavior for a child to learn how to use their body. It's actually something that is like a divine thing given to you that you probably need to know how it works. I don't think that that's shameful when it is not paired with pornography. So the thing is that kids are going to see porn. They're going to see it where they're. Let's say they never search for porn.
Never once type in the words.
Let's say they never type in the words clitoris. They've never heard of it. Let's just say they're not even curious about what that is. Do you think there's a chance that they're not going to see, even if you have a locked down phone for them, that they're not going to have a friend that's going to text message them a screen recording because maybe you have links turned off?
Oh, and do you know how many times I've lost count where I've heard people say the first place that their child was exposed to porn was either at a church activity with other young men their age or at school.
Yeah. So they're going to see it. They're going to be sent pornography from friends, from a family member, from...
You can see it on TV nowadays. Go to the gym.
I was going to say, they'll see it. So I have talked very boldly with my kids about this subject, saying, do not consume pornography. Do not do it. It is going to be a massive pull for you because you are going through puberty and it's totally normal to have this surge of hormones that tells you that like pleasure seeking is the number one, and that's okay. You're not wrong.
And I think you're going to get into this, but when I've had a conversation with the boys about this, you have to empower them with the truth.
It's amazing.
Why do so many people get caught up in this?
Right.
Why is porn such a problem? And I have to explain to them again because it's incredible. It's intriguing. It's very enticing. Yes, you know it's wrong, but all of a sudden people see it and their body starts to tingle, or they start to feel good and warm and fuzzy inside, or they start to become stimulated. It naturally happens. And if you don't explain to them that that is natural,
or you teach them the opposite and you teach them that feeling that is bad. Don't feel that.
You just shoved the secret down as deep as a secret can go, and our secrets keep us sick.
Don't get a boner. For heaven's sakes, don't masturbate. That would be a horrible thing for you.
That's a sin. You'll go to hell. Now you just scared someone, and they're never going to talk about their secret.
They'll never talk to you about it. You just sealed the deal. They're never going to talk.
I just wanted to clarify, because you said like this is black and white, and they can't do it. And I know where you're going with this, and I love it. But it's reminding that we're very clear as to why people do it and how enticing it is and how.
Oh, it's so powerful. It's the most powerful drug on earth. I believe that with all of my heart.
But again, it's helping them understand that, yes, that might be tempting. And yes, you may have to do certain things when it would be enjoyable for the end result.
Right. So again, we're just very straightforward. You're going to see porn. When you do, don't look at it. Like, look away. Let's talk about it. Don't start getting sucked into that trap, because it will snatch you up faster than any illicit drug could. I mean, that's the truth.
Again, you're not condoning this, and we're not trying to be the ones that tempt them. The greatest honor you can have as a parent is when they come up to you and tell you.
Yep, it is.
Because you've talked about it any young person knows there's going to be like some form of like a consequence or a concern or something. Yep. But when they come up and say, hey, you know what? For the last couple of days, I've been looking at things I shouldn't have. I feel really bad about it.
It's killing me.
That's when it's just like, we're doing it right.
Yep. That's when you wrap your arms around your child and give them the biggest hug and tell them that you love them so much and you're so proud of them.
And reiterate all these things. Hey, it's okay. I bet it felt really amazing.
Yeah.
I bet that was a really confusing experience because you knew you shouldn't do it, but it also felt really amazing. Yep. Remember, we talked about that.
Yep.
And so many people get caught up or they get scared and they don't have anyone to talk to and they hold it in as a secret. And then guess what? When they have a secret, they kind of feel sick and bad inside. So they go look for it again, some sort of escape.
Right.
You teach them how addiction works. You teach them how it develops.
Right. So the other big thing that I hear so many parents talk about is this, well, my kid got kind of hooked on porn because they actually just searched something up that they were wondering about. They wanted to know about this or that. They had heard about this sexual act or this part of the body. They didn't know about it. They wanted to know. And so they just searched it up. Totally normal, right?
Oh my gosh. Can I tell the story of Maddie? This girl, we know, a friend of ours. And when she was younger, she was curious because all the girls at school were talking about blowjob. What's that? If she doesn't have a place to go and talk about that, like a safe, respectable place, in today's day and age, they're not going into encyclopedias, like we said earlier, the school library and checking a book.
Right.
Where do they go? In the snap of a finger, they're on what?
Right.
They can search it up on Google, and guess what? Young people don't use that. Young people don't use Google. What do they use?
Well, they can search it up on Google, and what will come up is a TikTok video or...
They go to these platforms like TikTok or whatever they're using, and they search, what is a blowjob? What do you think when they search that up they're going to get?
Right. They're going to get a lot of education that isn't real education. So here's the bottom line. Here's the truth. You need to tell your kids, hey, if you're curious about something, I want you to know going to porn to learn about it is going to teach you a bunch of lies. It's going to teach you the wrong thing. You're going to have a really messed up view of this other person that you're engaging with, because it's lies. So if you have a question about something, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I don't even care how uncomfortable it is. I don't think any parent wants to teach their kid about blowjobs.
Oh my gosh.
Or what is 69? No one is like, yeah, I am stoked about this. But you know what? To be honest with you, you should be stoked about it. Because if your kid is comfortable enough to come to you, or if you are bold enough and courageous enough as a parent to say, here's a bunch of things that you're going to hear about, let's talk about it.
Well, our son, when he was younger, came back. This was elementary school.
It was like 5th grade.
And someone had carved or written in all over the bathroom door 69. Yeah. And he wanted to know what it was. When he asked me, I was like, it choked. I was like, because we were in the car with the other kids, and it was not the right time. But I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't tell him, guess what he's going to do? He's going to find out.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days where you go talk to a friend and he doesn't know, and that's the end of the resources you have.
Yeah.
He's going to find out.
He is. He's going to find out.
Have these difficult conversations. Can I tell a funny thing, a fear tactic I used recently on the boys? I don't know if I told you this.
Although fear tactics are horrible.
I know. That's why I laugh, okay? But it wasn't really a fear tactic. But I told them, I said, because they were asking about pornography and why is it such a big problem? And I don't know if they saw something somewhere that I think our oldest son had seen like something on YouTube where guys were talking about how it's a big problem, and these guys were actually trying to work on it. He's like, gosh, why is it such a big problem? And I used this example because it's true. I said, do you know how many young people that I work with who now have to take medication? I'm talking like 18 and under have to take medication for erectile dysfunction. Now, when I started talking about what that was, my middle son, he's like, like he didn't want to talk about it. But both of them were like, wait, what? The wiener doesn't work anymore? Oh my gosh. So
Yeah, you're like, no, that is
But it's-
that is progression, right?
result.
Like that is where you're gonna head. There's no avoiding that. A great book, by the way, if anybody's like, I need a book to read about this. A great book is A Better Way to Teach Kids About Sex. Google it. Buy it on Amazon. And it's amazing. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why it's amazing also is because it does have a lot of pictures in it. And so, and no, not porn pictures, but it really does like diagram all these different parts of the body so that your kids can know what it is. They need to know what it is. It sucks to have these conversations, but that's what you signed up for when you became a parent. You're going to have to teach them all of the body parts and what they do on both genders. You are. And it's best done with your partner. They need both perspectives.
Hey, will you share some of the statistics that you found?
So
interesting
here's
things.
another huge point that I want every parent to hear this, and it is acknowledging the realities of the world that our kids live in is so important. And I know you're like, oh, I know it's so different. I wish I was raising my kids in the 80s and the 90s. That would have been, I get it. But I really, really do want you to understand this so that you can actually talk to them about it. Because the truth is that there's always been suffering in the world. There's always been comparison in the world. There's always been stress. That's not new. But what is new is that we all get to absorb all of it all the time. It's on the billboards when we're driving in the car. It's on the news. It's on our phones. It's on every screen that is brought to our dinner table and into our bedrooms at night. It's everywhere. We get to see the problems of 8 billion people all the time, all day long. That did not used to exist. We didn't used to have that. And it's very overwhelming. It's overwhelming for you as an adult. But the impact it's had on this generation of these kids right now cannot be overstated. The CDC did a study on high school aged kids in February of 2023, which reported that 57% of high school aged kids reported experiencing persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. 57%. Okay. That's up from 26% in 2011.
Yeah, so more than doubled.
So
I also like to think about when I was little. There was comparison. There was pressure. There was like sizing yourself up all the time. But it was like with the one guy that you saw at school who had the nicer car than you.
Right.
Maybe the bigger muscles or the cuter girlfriend.
Right.
It was that guy.
One person, not 8 billion.
Now they compare themselves. It's not even just that it's 8 billion people. It's all filtered, Photoshop, fake, and just constantly in your face. So the pressure is real. And everybody listening in knows that.
Yes, because you feel it. Our modern parents and humans, we also struggle with this. Your children are looking for salvation and coping anywhere they can get a hit of it in a dopamine fueled place that we live in. We live in this culture that is obsessed with dopamine hits and distraction. And it is the most accessible thing on earth. It is more accessible than anything else. Vaping, weed, alcohol,
sex,
porn, TikTok, texting, for crying out loud. I mean,
don't even get me started on this one because again, it's the same when we were younger. There were similarities, but it's how it's accelerated. Like if you want to know how to use a drug, you can find it in less than 5 seconds.
Yes.
If you want to learn how to obtain that drug, you can. Believe it or not, there are so many platforms, Grubhub, DoorDash, where there's certain emojis and symbols used to notify someone to deliver drugs with.
And guess what? Your middle schooler probably knows exactly what that is.
I know. I just got off the phone with some parents that found out they lived in a rural area of Oregon and their son had been being delivered.
Yeah.
With
Taco Bell with
his
weed,
his narcotics and his marijuana for quite some time. It was crazy. And can I not even mention how much society's standards have collapsed?
Yeah,
You
we
can go-
accept it. We think it's normal.
You can go to any doctor and get a medical marijuana card. Doctors handing out Adderall like candy. You can go and get ketamine treatments, which is actually a horse tranquilizer. It's now just used to help people kind of work through some of their issues. Now, I'm not arguing what some people think the medical benefits are. I'm just saying that we now accept drugs we in a way when we used to not.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they're easily accessible.
Yes. And porn being the number one most accessible.
That's the one that's so hard. Every one of us when we were younger were curious. I was curious. I get a boner. I'd see a girl. I go to church and see a woman's cleavage and be like, woo. But that was the extent of it.
Yeah, but can you imagine when you felt insecure or you felt sad or you felt left out, if you knew all you had to do was reach in your pocket and you had access to porn, that would immediately relieve you of feeling that.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
That's the culture that we have created.
Well, it's good reminding because it's undeniable. You cannot avoid it. It will find you. So you've got to be ahead of the game and you've got to talk about it. And I do want to mention, if you talk about it all the time, not many 14-year-olds or 15-year-olds are going to want to come talk about masturbation with their mom or dad.
No.
Right?
They're not.
We try to be cool. We think we're cool. We have a great sex life, incredible sex life. We think we'd be the best, most qualified people for our kids to talk to about it. They're not going to want to talk to us.
No.
But what they will do is when they hurt and they need somewhere to go is they'll know that they can. Now, you can keep talking about it and believe it or not, it's going to have an influence. They're going to learn a lot. They're
Right.
going to, even if they aren't reciprocating it, right?
Yep.
So
there's a really amazing quote from a book called Stolen Focus. I have to read this because it's so critical. It's by Johann Hari, and he says, "We have created a culture where really large numbers of people can't bear to be present in their daily lives and need to medicate themselves throughout the day." You might be guilty of this as a parent. You might be. So I want you to consider how your child is coping with the difficult things that they are carrying through the lenses of a teenager or a young adult. So the lesson here for the parents is to talk to your kids about this very thing and talk to them about what they are feeling when they're tempted to look at porn or when they think about looking at porn or maybe right after they look at porn. I want you to start this conversation where you say, why do you think you wanted to look at that?
well,
Help
how did it
them
make you feel? Yeah.
critically think through, were you feeling lonely? Were you feeling left out? Were you feeling sad? Are you using this as an escape? Is this your coping mechanism?
I don't know if this is appropriate. And if it is, we can cut it out, although we don't edit things. We just roll with it. We're not unique. We have our son has had an experience just like any other.
Yeah.
And it was really powerful to acknowledge that it was appealing at first. Maybe it was a little exciting. But afterwards, it's just like, how did it feel?
Yep.
I felt bad. Just processing through that experience instead of going, I don't know, go talk to your dad.
Or, oh my gosh, why did you do that? I told you not to. That's horrible.
So wrong. You're grounded. Give me your phone.
I mean, truly, the difference in the response can make or break everything.
And that's the most powerful teaching moment because it's like, hey, it's okay. If it made you feel excited, if it did stimulate you, if you got a boner.
Hey, great. I'm happy for you. You're
so
normal.
You are so normal. You're healthy. But you have to play the tape through and explain the whole process. So we got to get on to sex. I mean, I guess we've been talking about
sex, but I do want, I just think it's really critical because it kind of goes hand in hand, right? Like we don't really have these conversations about porn without also talking about sex. Again, parents don't generally like to talk about sex. If you came from any generation close to mine, you never talked about sex with your parents. The only conversations that were ever had was do not do it. Am I right? Don't do it.
In almost any home, regardless of their faith
Don't do
base
it.
or whatever.
So it was fragmented education at best, right? You were just taught abstinence.
Yep.
That's what you were taught about sex. You were taught to abstain from it. You were not taught about it. You were just taught not to do it. I believe that's not right. I believe that creates a really shameful culture and a toxic one for any healthy adult, because sex is a massive piece of your purpose and your life and who you are as a divine being. It's a gift. I think we all need to feel more comfortable with that. So I don't want to perpetuate this problem that we've all faced. Again, how many people do you know waited until they got married, had sex, and it was awful?
Hey, you know what? I'm jumping in. Again, I'm just sharing from firsthand experience from working with and getting to know so many people. We all think porn's kind of a guy thing. It's not. It is not.
It's not.
But I'll tell you what, for all the women that are struggling with porn addictions, I don't have any specific studies. I just have the voices that I've heard in my ear. Guess how it started for all of them? Wanting to know what pleases a man, wanting to know how to please a man, wanting to know how to orgasm.
Right.
For educational purposes.
Right. They don't know how to use their body. They don't know.
They hear about know what boys like. Well, how do you do that? If that's what boys like, how do you do that? Even if it's a good person, even if it's that awesome person that's doing everything they're supposed to, but they're getting married and they're wanting to know. No one's talked to them about it.
Right.
When they go find out how it's...
Or even they want to have an orgasm and they don't know how. They know that women typically moan and scream when they have sex, and so maybe they do that, but they're not feeling good and they're miserable, and then sex becomes a job for them, and then their marriage feels really weird and disconnected, and then their husband starts looking at porn, which makes them feel worse because now they think they're not skinny enough or pretty enough or something enough. It's just a disaster. This is why we have to have these conversations with our kids about sexual wholeness. So instead of approaching it from a fragmented place of don't do it, what I like to teach my kids and what I feel like have done a decent job of is teaching them that sex has 3 dimensions. One of them is pleasure. Boys generally are really good at understanding this one because they figure out how to masturbate super young, and they learn how their body works, and they know what pleasure feels like. But the other 2 components are really, really important and never talked about. And that is the actual connection, the human connection that you feel, the belonging that you feel when you get to connect physically with someone and experience the pleasure with them. That's another component. And then the purpose, right? I believe that we're divine beings that were blessed with the ability to feel pleasure, to connect us to each other, and also to have children, which, again, bonds you even more and gives you more connection. So in order to experience this sexual wholeness that I'm talking about, which I believe is one of the greatest blessings of your life, you have to see sex as a gift and a beautiful thing that you protect, that you understand, that you feel comfortable with, that you talk about, that you learn about, but that you don't destroy with things like pornography. You don't abuse your body or someone else's. This is something that you get to look forward to and anticipate and enjoy with someone that you love, that you're deeply connected to one day.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just willingly state this, and I know you'll agree. We have an incredible sex life. And what it's taken, the effort, all that, what the sacrifice to get to that point, we could do a whole segment on that. It's more than just keeping yourself physically in shape. It's being spiritually in shape. It's being mentally in shape. It's doing all the things that you're deserving of that connection.
Yep.
And we want our kids to know that.
Yes.
Now, granted, when they're ages 9, 11, 14, some of them might be a little more interested than others. And who in the world wants to talk, even if you're both like super physically fit and you think you're cool? No one wants to hear your mom and dad talk about it.
No.
But they need to. and they need to understand that it's amazing, that it's a gift. I want all of my kids to know that it's this incredible pot of gold waiting for them down the road, but they only get that if they do what they're supposed to do, if they avoid things that are very tempting and appealing.
Yes, because the number one thing that just kills me is how good Satan has gotten at destroying not only families but future families by taking these young kids and introducing pornography to them and literally imprisoning them with these habits and addictions that have developed that have completely skewed their ability to connect with real people that they love. And it just destroys their lives.
It's the same as any drug.
It's worse.
The first time you do cocaine, it's so stimulating. You feel like you're skydiving it's a feeling beyond that. And then it's a poison that ruins your life. It's the same.
It is.
The issue with this one, though, is it has this stigma attached to it that people don't talk about. They have a hard time even hearing about it.
Right.
But what else did you have to say?
Well, I was just going to say that another thing that I have said is to attempt to find record of anyone anywhere in the world that has been a pornography consumer for years on end and finds it enjoyable still. Because it's not.
You mean the real thing?
Porn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying it actually decreases your pleasure over time. Porn consumption decreases your pleasure over time.
We're running out of time, but I have to just jump in and remind. I think I might have shared this in a previous podcast, but I've had issues with this in my life, and I've had to utilize everything in my recovery to teach me how to do this, right? To talk about it, to get help, to overcome it, to start looking at myself, to figuring out where I'm empty but I've worked with so many people. I'm currently working with so many people that are stuck in it, and it's changed. Because even if a person has a pornography addiction and they're seeking something out, like, oh, two girls kissing, they're going to see that. But the technology uses this opportunity to throw these very inappropriate things at them. So not only is it destroying them in what to expect out of a healthy sexual relationship, but it's just inflicting their mind with heinous things.
Right.
Terrible things.
Yep. That they can't get out.
Things that don't even turn them on or stimulate them, but almost scare or shock them, that become intriguing. And that's what puts these young men down into these terrible situations, is because of how inappropriate the content is that they're now seeing, makes them feel so unworthy, unlovable. That's the separate side. It's not even all about the stimulation or the enjoyment.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. At the end of the day, I think if you take one thing away from this episode, I hope it's this. It is not about the words you say. It is not about the details. It is about the relationship that you have with your kids. Focus on that.
And it's hard when they come and talk to you about these things. It's hard when they question these things. It's hard when they tell you that they've had mistakes with these things. Especially as parents. If we were doing it with our neighbors' kids or like your sister's kids, you have a totally different response. When it's your own child, you're like, because it's kind of like an attack on yourself, right? Mm-hmm. More than anything, I hope this just gives people courage to be proactive a little bit more with this.
Yep.
And to
be
nurture
bold.
that relationship to have with your kids, so that one, they're not confused, one, they're not picked off by some confusing situation, that they don't harbor a secret they may harbor it for a few days, but what destroys people's life is when that secret is bottled up and held in for years. It manifests in so many other things and ways of self-medicating.
Yeah. Well,
it really does. Can I just share one little tip, something we've done for what it's worth? Maybe it appeals to you, maybe it doesn't. We created in our home a place called The Safe Place. It's something we learned in a program in a kind of different form when we were younger. It's a couch in our bedroom. We've made strict rules about it with our kids. We had to practice how it works. We had to actually utilize it when we were wrong and do it. But it's a place where we go. There's no phones allowed in there. No one else can come in the room when the door's locked and we're using the secret place. They can say anything.
Safe place.
Sorry, the safe place. They can say anything, share anything, and we don't respond. Like with anger.
Well, there's no consequences given right then.
Right then. That's done later on, again, in the safe place. But it's so amazing when it's an intentional spot. Now, it doesn't always need to be there, but when there's something that really needs to be shared, when any of our kids are hurting in a special, unique kind of way, guess what the key word is? Can I go talk to you in the safe place? And what happens is, as a parent, you're like, ding, you better shut work off. You better shut bills and stress of life off. You better put your phone, and you better go over there with your game face on and pay attention. And hear them and allow them a safe place to tell you. Now, if they go tell you they did something terrible and wrong, of course, there'll probably be a consequence or something to talk about after. But you go back to the safe place and say, I'm so proud of you. I'm thankful that you told me. Let's talk about maybe what we're going to have to do to avoid that, or what we need to do to, button things up so that doesn't happen again. But this is a heavy topic. You can either talk to them about it and get comfortable doing it, or you can let the world teach them.
Yep. I picked the first one.
That's a lot of pressure. So thank you for joining in. I know it's a big topic, but our secrets keep us sick. The safest.
Go listen to that episode too.
The safest place we have is our family, our home. In our faith, the goal for the last year or two has been to create our home to be a temple, a sacred place, not just a safe and good place, but a sacred place. And that doesn't mean people in there aren't making mistakes. A temple doesn't mean that there's people who aren't dealing with temptation and sorrow and sin. No, it's just that we're all continually focused on trying to work together, to have a safe place to go, to ask for forgiveness, to know you can be forgiven, and to improve.
Yep. Amen.
So close
all right,
it out like
serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept that I cannot change other people, the courage to change the person that I can, and the wisdom to know that it is me.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.